Thank you for joining us. We're live on all channels, and this is our monthly TLS corporate Zoom. We're very, very thrilled to be bringing to you some incredible expert guests, some incredible content, what I'd consider life-changing stuff here. So with me is my partner, my director of training in TLS, Sosan. She's a registered dietitian and has been for 17, 18 years now, Sosan. Is a part of a weekly radio show and has been doing that for a very long time, teaching people about health and wellness and proper nutrition. So we're so blessed and glad to have her on board as our director of training and here tonight to talk about healthy blood sugar levels. And then, of course, most of you, this lady needs no introduction, but just in case you're new, you've never seen us before, we have Dr. Deedra Mason with us, and she is, I think she's got about 5 different titles, but she has a background, obviously, as a doctor, obviously. Dee, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, just so our new guests on the line can learn a little bit more about you?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for the invitation, of course. So my name is Dr. D, and I am a licensed primary care physician. As a naturopathic physician, I pay attention to that first principle of medicine, which is first do no harm. And that means talking to people about their diet, their lifestyle, those interventions that make a difference on a personal level, right? So why practitioners like myself may look at drug interventions, may look at a host of what we would consider conventional interventions, we are also trained to be able to look at a full spectrum of interventions. So that is one of the things, and one of the reasons why it's a pleasure to be here talking about something that's crucial to all of our health, which is an understanding of our metabolism, our endocrine system, and ultimately, Melanie, Sosan, everyone with us today, those things that impact that. So one of the things that I have the blessing to be a part of is Market America as our vice president of product development and a clinical director for a nonprofit called the Nutrimetrics Educational Institute. And it's through each of these avenues that I have the opportunity with a team like this to be able to talk to people about creating health within their community. So again, all of that, thank you for the invitation, Melanie and Sosan.
Well, we're so glad you're here.
I know.
For sure. So we're going to be talking about maintaining healthy blood sugar levels or blood glucose levels. This has become a very important topic as a lot of Americans, and I would say a lot of North Americans, are really dealing with this as a potential problem.
High blood sugar is a concern. And when people think of high blood sugar, when we think about the first thing they often say, I don't eat sugar. How many people will say, I don't eat sugar, especially men? They say, I don't like dessert. I don't eat sugar. In fact, I have my coffee black. Why is my blood sugar high? Well, yes, sugar could be one of the cause, but not the only cause. I would say your diet, the amount of carbohydrate we eat. Like we are I think the world loves carbohydrates. Just think about every country in the world. Look at their main food that they like, comfort food. They all falls in that one group. It's called carbohydrates. So it's not just simply the sugar you eat, but the processed food as well as the amount of carbohydrate we eat in comparison to other macronutrient that we very much need, which is healthy fat and protein and fiber and so much more. But really, it's not just about the sugar. It's really looking at the total carbohydrate and relative to your lifestyle too. But I would say start out by looking at your diet, but don't make it so simplistic and say, hey, it's all about sugar. It's not just about sugar. Sugar is one of the equation, but not the only part of the equation.
You know, I want to pick up there just briefly, because you're so right about kind of the origin of this story and how individuals think there's this one thing I'm going to do that's going to achieve health in my body. I'm going to get rid of that sugar and then everything's going to be rocking, right? And one of the things that's missing from this discourse, missing from this dialogue or conversation about what it is not just that processed food that you talked about, which you're right, Sosan, it's globally becoming a problem where we're seeing higher levels of processed food, right? More to new to nature molecules or simple sugars that are masking or are trying to impersonate real food. Listen, real food doesn't make you sick. That's just it. Like, we just got to be like, there it is, laid out, right? But a lot of people, in an attempt to find health, just like you talked about with the I don't put sugar in my coffee anymore, are looking for alternatives. And it could be anything like, oh, well, I use a 0-calorie sweetener I choose diet soda, or I use 0-calorie sweeteners, or I want you guys to understand that that is something that creates a response in the brain and on the tongue that says, I tasted sweet. I'm going to go ahead and let my pancreas create an insulin to help her with that, right? And in the absence of calories of real food, and this could be healthy carbohydrates, it could be fat, it could be protein, in the vacuum of lack of calories, those little insulin bubbles go, well, I'm going to go out. I mean, I'm not waiting around. I'm going to go out and I'm going to look for something. And as a result of that, we tend to overeat. And it's not necessarily overeating sugar, but we do end up overeating calories. And it all often comes in the form of rewarding calories. So I just want to remind everybody that it's not just the sugar, as Sosan said. It's in fact going to be sometimes our approach to a healthy diet that can also get in our way. It's important for us to think about, like, what steps can I take, and then have a better relationship with foods. And we can't address what causes ill health until we start talking about what went wrong with our food system.
Yes.
Yeah. So can we like get specific on the carbohydrates, because I think there's a lot of confusion in the world about carbohydrates. Because vegetables and fruit are carbohydrates,
Yes.
and they're good carbohydrates, right? And if you're to cook up some quinoa and millet, those have some carbohydrates in them. Those are good carbohydrates. I think the carbohydrates that we're talking about that end up, causing a spike in the blood sugar are things like white rice and pasta and bread, and these refined carbohydrates.
That's exactly the word. Those are refined foods, not real foods.
Right. So they mainly come in a bag or a box, right? They baked goods, flour goods, those types of foods are, quick to turn to sugar in the body, in the blood system. So I just want to say, like, we love our carbohydrates as long as they're the complex ones, those ones that come from our vegetables and our grains and those kinds of things. So I just wanted to make sure everybody on the line understood which carbohydrates we were talking about, because, that's a really important thing. So one of the things, this is actually a theme that has been around in TLS for, well, the entire time we've been around, which is over 2 decades now. And we really focus on low glycemic index foods, which is exactly what helps us keep those blood sugar levels even, right, Sosan? So tell us a little bit more about how that works to maintain what we're looking for.
So I'm so glad that you highlight the type of carbohydrates, because when we hear carbohydrate, we always think it's a bad thing. And I want to add one more before I talk about the GI is, if you notice the type of thing that you crave for, I don't know many people who tell me that they crave for vegetable, they crave for quinoa, they crave for millet. But if you crave for rice, like just, okay, maybe you, but not many people. So think about, and people said, what are the refined? Yes, we list them refined, but if you notice that they all have one thing in common, they causes you to have that spike in high blood sugar, and that spike gives you that pleasure, that's temporary pleasure. I always say short-term reward, but big time payment in the end, right? So you always come back for more and come back for more and more. So when you look at things and say, you know what, I don't crave for this, guess what? That's actually the good thing for you. Eventually, when you start living the healthy lifestyle, you will crave the good thing, which is exactly what we want in TLS. So when we talk about in TLS, what's really unique is that it's not just looking at the glycemic index, it's actually looking at the glycemic impact of food. Because when we look at food, we need to kind of look into into two parts. One is the glycemic index, but we need to look at more is the glycemic load. So glycemic index is a rating system to see how fast that food breaks down into sugar or raises your blood sugar. So refined carb, okay, like your bread, your rice, and pasta and so on, it's fast. It goes up very, very quickly. But the truth is, we need to take on one more consideration is the quality, how much of that carb really impacted yours, and that's where glycemic load comes in. And this is why I love the TLS program so much, because we really go into the two consideration. Because I always like to use the analogy of a carrot, because carrot has high GI, high glycemic index, and people say, hey, I thought carrots are healthy for you, but they have a low glycemic load because people can only eat so much carrot at one time. And if you do eat that much carrot at one time, you're so full that you will not eat something else. So think about that. But how many people say, oh, you know what, I'm going to stick with 5 M&M chocolate and I'll be happy? Not many people. 5 M&M, right? They want more and more. And after they eat M&M, I always say you can still have the appetite for more food. So that's why not just looking at the GI, but looking at the glycemic load. And that's what we call it the low glycemic impact eating. And what that means is when you eat those food, it doesn't increase your blood sugar, because in reality, we never eat one single food. We always combine food. And that's why we also take in consideration of having adequate fiber, the quality protein and the quality fat together, kind of blunt that blood sugar a little bit, or blunt the glycemic index a little bit, so that when you eat, your blood sugar, like how I like to say, even Steven, so that you don't get that surge of blood sugar. So because when you don't go up fast, you don't come down fast, so that you don't have that cravings for another one. And that even Steven also help you to really manage your energy, as well as helping your body to tap into that fat store to burn off instead of storing it, which is what we don't want. And that's why I love the TLS program, is because it's so comprehensive. It's looking every faceted, because that's how we should be eating. It's not eating less, it's eating smart.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody say like, oh, I ate way too many carrot sticks, like, you never hear that, but you do hear that with like a bag of chips or candies or, or Chinese food. And then like what, half an hour later, you're hungry. Now you mentioned something, I think, Dee, I'd love for you to expand on, which is the importance of fiber and protein. We have a saying in TLS, right? Fiber and protein, or protein and fiber at every meal makes burning fat no big deal. And so why is that?
It has everything to do with what Sosan was just talking about. It's a combination of these macronutrients in real food that give you your energy, that can slow down not just how quickly a carbohydrate, right, becomes fuel, but what's happening with your fat. What can your body do to absorb and metabolize nutrients, including macronutrients like protein for muscle building, for hormone balancing, for supporting ultimately sensitivity to insulin, which, let's be honest, you guys, we start to lose as we age. And insulin is one of the things you want to stay sensitive to so that you can properly store energy. It's not just even about glucose. It's about how the body partitions energy or shuttles energy around the body. And it's that combination that Sosan is talking about. So that's a really powerful message, Sosan, that you're sharing. But when we look specifically at combination, again, I want to talk about the combination of fiber, insoluble fiber and soluble fiber. Now, insoluble fiber, a lot of people don't know that it's not digestible, right? And that's why you never go, oh my gosh, too many carrots, right? Because that's got a lot of that fiber in it. But it also happens to be a mixture of soluble fibers in there, which are responsible for energy. So let's just walk through this really quickly. Insoluble fibers, because they're non-digestible, they are and non-caloric, they're able to run through the body non-digested, while soluble fibers in combination are able to create a gel. They're able to slow things down. Together, these two things, insoluble fibers stop by like kind of forming this fibrous stringiness in the intestines, stop the absorption of fats in a very rapid way. So it's all about rate of absorption. Stop sugars from going up too quickly. It's all about rate of absorption. those gelatinous or soluble fibers that you get through like beans and things like that, what they're going to do then is capture things like cholesterol, blood sugar droplets. When we think of glucose, we think of that fast or rapid energy, right? So one of the ways that you blunt how quickly your blood sugars go up, how quickly your body stores fuel for energy. I often refer to these as, we all have our things, like Sosan talks about even Steven. I often will talk about like, where are your savings accounts? Where are your energy savings accounts? They're in your lower middle. They're in your thighs. They're in your hips, right? So one of the things that can slow down that storage of energy and allow us to use energy is having a combination of resistant starches, or a combination of insoluble starches and soluble starches together. That creates something, a really powerful message I want you guys to write down, which is a resistant starch. Because at some point in the large intestine, both starches, it's a free-for-all, both starches allow your microbiome, your gut bugs, to start munching on them and creating energy. And this energy tells your immune system, it tells your gut, it tells your muscles, it tells your endocrine system, your hormones, that it has sufficient energy to do the job it was meant to do. That could be aging and hormones, that could be cardiovascular well-being, that could be immunity and weight loss, or even getting a good night's sleep. It kind of goes down to what's going on in your large intestine, and an absence of both insoluble and soluble fiber means not a lot is going on in your large intestine.
Yeah, definitely some really valuable information here. What TLS makes so simple is our program outlines, our power food lists, our recipe booklets, to make sure that, we're just taking the complex conversation that we're having tonight and really making it simple through our tools for people to incorporate that low glycemic index eating and impact eating, that takes into account both index and load, as I say, speed and load, so that we know we're managing those healthy blood sugar levels and making sure that we're getting those macro combinations. So obviously another pillar to TLS program, but also another pillar in regards to managing our blood sugar level is, movement. And so, Sosan, why don't you touch a little bit on how that can impact our blood sugar levels?
Well, obviously, when we talk about movement, the first thing we think about what part of the body that uses sugar for movement, your muscle, right? We want to, like, we love muscle. I love muscle. As I age, I love muscle so much. So when we do exercise, there's different form of exercise. Let's start out with the most basic. People always think that they need to go to the gym and really work out really hard to benefit the blood sugar, and it's not true. You can definitely if you have also the other fitness goal, but if your goal was simply to support a healthy blood sugar, simply walking will be your best choice, because as you're walking and movement, that movement is really telling your muscle, which stores that sugar, to use it as energy. So that's one way. And second way, I always tell my clients that if you're gonna have a huge meal and you say, oh my goodness, I eat way too much noodle, I said go out for a walk. That will be the best way, because so that these sugars that are breaking down really fast get to be used as energy, so that they don't get to be stored as energy. So that's one way of doing it. So I would say as simple as really helping having your muscles to supply you those sugar, but also use it up quickly before it gets stored. Because like Dr. D was saying, your saving account, right? Where do you want your saving account to be, right? If you're not using it up, you have to save it up, right? So and there's sort of like, we might want to save money, but we don't want to save sugar or fat. Okay.
It's so true. Movement is magic.
Mm-hmm. So you're kind of talking a little bit more about, going for a walk around the block, getting, some cardiovascular, maybe some HIIT cardio in, to manage that, sort of sugar storage we might have going on. But let's talk a little bit, and I know this is a huge passion of Dr. Deedra's, and that is, strength training and building that muscle so that we are, living life, vital long into our years. So tell us a little bit about that, Dee.
So this is like what cracked my neck. And I go, okay, let's do this. Right. So it is true that I often will talk about how movement is magic and that it doesn't need to start as Sosan was talking about, with some like freakish commitment to flipping tires. And, and that's where a lot of people find themselves, is they think, oh, I can't exercise, because their perception is that there's a really big upfront cost to getting started. Right. It's just going to take so much effort. It's going to take so much time. And that's why it's so important that we think about that movement on a regular basis. And that can be, important for so many other reasons. When you walk, you'll probably, for the most part, we're hoping that you're walking outside, which means you're out in nature. And there's a lot to be said for creating that kind of health in nature and that connection to nature when we think about hitting our goals, whether they're weight loss goals, energy goals, aging goals. But when it comes to strength training, this is really critical for the aging body, the body that wants to repair metabolism, that wants to start to create a space for burning fat, even when that body is at rest. And one of the ways that you do this, and this is, as I said, crucial for healthy aging, one of the ways that you do this is to create strong muscles. By strength training, putting load on the muscles, what you're doing is creating a demand for that energy utilization that Sosan talked about, right? So getting those carbohydrates, but getting those fatty acids, those things that we don't want storing. For those of you that don't know, free fatty acids and triglycerides are a measurement of the way your body is storing sugar as fat. And yet, one of the sources of fuel that your muscles like very much is fatty acids. So one of the things that you can do to create these fatty acids for energy is strength training. And again, it's not necessarily starting with flipping tires, right? I want you to get there. No, it doesn't need to be flipping tires. What it needs to be is force load. So it can be plyometric, it can be jumping, it can be creating a fast twitch type of factor. It can be definitely moving against resistance. And what I want people to know is that resistance is resistance for you. What is max effort for you? Walking stairs for some people is max effort. That means that your body is getting the stimulus that it needs to start shuttling this energy properly, to start creating those muscles, to start focusing on blood sugar management, fatty acid management, energy, metabolism. So what? So that you start to become more efficient. You become you no longer have an endurance problem when it comes to exercise, right? Because the muscles, literally with enough stimulation, muscles will change their configuration. They go from what is considered a slow twitch muscle to a fast twitch muscle. And what we understand is that proteins that are found in muscle, they'll use things like coenzyme Q10, they'll use things like fatty acids, they'll use proper protein sources to help with this uncoupling so that you can create fast twitch muscles. These are very energy efficient muscles. These are the muscles that are sending stimulation to your heart rate. These are the same muscle fibers that are sending stimulant or cell signals out, telling your blood sugar to keep it under control. It's in fact your muscles. I often say that strong is the new skinny, because it's these muscles, in fact, that are sending out chemical signals that tell your body to regulate blood sugar, to keep heart rate and blood pressure within healthy ranges, to tell your brain to function optimally, but also, Melanie, Sosan, everyone, to catch you if you fall, right? And so it's really important that you get started with fitness, and that there's a space for that walking that can turn into something that's more brisk, and then can turn into something that is the power behind it, which is lifting up heavy things and putting them back down again. Because those are the combinations that will create an anti-aging remedy for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Those last few reps that are really, really, really challenging to do are so important to accomplishing a lot of what you were talking about. A good chunk of the muscle tissue cells are not even kind of coming to the party. They're not even awake and at the party yet. And then that's why we do those last few challenging reps that cause more of those cells to come in the muscle to come alive and be like, yes, we can do this together, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And so that challenge, right? And so that challenge is different for everyone, how big that weight is, how, I'm working on getting deeper into, that deep push up, right? I can do, I'm really working on that proper military push up, and that, takes some serious strength. So I'm, and that I always think about that whenever I'm doing those last challenging things, is like bringing all the cells to the party so that those muscles become those efficient energy machines like you're talking about, Dee. Let's move on here, because if you're not all motivated to work out tomorrow morning, I don't know, man. Okay, so we have some things in our life, obviously, that cause us some stress, maybe cause us some sleepless nights. And we can't always get rid of those things in our lives that cause that. And nor would we want to in many cases. And so we do need to assist the body in managing stress and getting proper sleep, because both have an impact on our blood sugar levels. And many people, I don't think, know that. And so Sosan, why don't you touch on that stress hormone, cortisol, and how that affects our blood sugar levels?
Okay. And I want to say what's really interesting, I think after Dee will be talking about sleep, is that you find that they're all interrelated. They're interconnected. That's the beauty of health. I always say that there are certain things that people can always give you, but there's one thing that no one can give you, is that they cannot give you muscle. Okay, no matter how much how generous they are, they want to help you, they cannot give you muscle, they cannot give you your health. You have to earn it. That means we have to work for it, basically, which is once you work for it and you see the benefit, you're motivated to continue on. So with that to say, I really want to talk about cortisol, because people always think cortisol is a bad thing. Cortisol, for once, is not a bad thing. It's only a bad thing, or cortisol is a stress hormone, right? So we would want, I always say that when you walk down the street and there's a crazy car that kind of jumping at or driving really fast, you want to have that response to be able to like run away from that. You want that. Imagine a car coming here and you just stand there like that. Can you imagine? You want that stress response with it. However, I'm talking about not the acute stress. I'm talking about chronic stress, right? What are the impact of that chronic stress on you? So when your cortisol level is high, it actually trigger a little bit things. Just think about let's talk about our ancestry, okay? Because we're evolution, right? So when people are stressed, they only want to do two things, either like what we call fight or flight, right? Either run away or fight it. So both requires energy. And where do you get energy? From sugar, right? So when that happens, the body will put down the rest of whatever they need to deal with that thing that is emergency. So that means they need sugar. So where they do? They have to shut off some system, some system happening, and they turn on something happening too. So they turn on and say, hey, where can I get that from? So they will say, muscle, don't uptake any more sugar, because I don't want you to store them. I want you to have it readily available. So what they do is they actually break down your protein, and shuffle that into your liver through what we call the fancy name gluconeogenesis, which is where we're making sugar, basically. So this sugar is ready for you to use it. However, in modern days, when we're stressed, we're not really fighting something, or we're not running away from something. So this sugar is pooled in that blood, And you say, hey, I'm not using it up. So what do you do when you're not using it up? Long term, obviously, it leads to insulin resistance, and we need to release those free fatty acid for energy. So this formula contains the CoQ10 as well as L-carnitine, which supports fat metabolism, and we added the lipase right there because we want to make sure that you really maximize the absorption. So because it has coenzyme Q10 and that's a fat soluble, I call it enzyme, it needs fat in order to absorb. So in this case, I know most isotonic, we always say take it on empty stomach. In this case, it's actually better to take it with food, right? So take it any of your meal. I would say take with the meal that you know that you love your carb, whatever that meal is that you know is heavy duty, right? So that would be the best way of taking it. But there's another product that was very similar, and people often—
Okay, hold on. I just want to bring up a visual for everyone really quick. And so I'm bringing up TLS. I want to let you know that make sure that you get the link to whoever invited you to this webinar and Zoom to get the link to this site from them, because they have theirs. And I actually just brought mine up. As you can see, it says Melanie D. Nelson. So we want to make sure you get to the right site with the right person. But Sosan just mentioned isotonic isochrome. You can just put, the beginning of that, and it's going to just start auto-filling it right in that little search bar over to the right. And I love this, product for the benefits that we're talking about, and all the things that Sosan mentioned about ingredients and, what's in it. It's all here for you to take a look at to see if maybe this is a fit for you in regards to, what is this? What are the benefits? What are the ingredients? What are the frequently asked questions? It's all there for you to learn more about this incredible product. And then the next one, Sosan, you mentioned?
Yes, and the next one is another product that also contains chromium, but people get very confused. Which one is better? So let's talk about why they're different, and so which one is better, so you can choose the appropriate one. So it's the advanced level 90. As the name entails, blood sugar maintenance. It is for you maintaining your healthy blood sugar. But what's really unique about this formulation, aside from the fact that it has chromium, is that it helps reduce sugar craving. So if you're the type of person that you have this insatiable love for sugar, this will be probably a better product for you. Basically, it's not just only for that, it also supports a strong immune system and also maintains healthy cholesterol and triglyceride level. And like I said before, it contains chromium, but it contains alpha lipoic acid. But two particular is, remember the soluble fiber that Dr. Deedra just mentioned, how amazing it is? It contains the soluble fiber, in this case is glucomannan. And Asian people probably heard about this because it is in one of the noodles that we used to eat. Okay, konjac noodle, everybody. Okay, that's glucomannan right there, in case the Asians that's out there right here. And it's great in terms of delaying the emptying and promoting the gradual absorption of the blood sugar into the intestine, basically, from the intestine. Then we have another one that really, I call it the sugar killer, is that they reduce the sugar craving, is because they have the Gymnema, I hate that name, Gymnema sylvester, okay? It does, so this is great because it also contains American ginseng, which is known as a great adaptogenic herb. So this combination really helps support those people who just not only to make, and so you can see a slight difference. One is a little bit more for energy, one is more for really dealing with people who loves their carbs and really love their sugar. And in terms of when to take it, in this case, you take it with your meal. And if you eat 3 meals, you take it with 3 times a day. And if you happen to eat 2 meals, for some people are so into 2 meals nowadays, you can certainly do 1 and do 2 with the next meal. And again, choose the meal that you have a intense amount of I should not say intense. You shouldn't be having that high intense amount of carbohydrate, but you know what you mean. So in this case, your rice, your noodle, pasta thing, you might want to definitely add this to your regimen.
Or would it be like could it be when you are most likely, like some people in the morning, they want that Pop-Tart and that donut and that muffin with their coffee and so if that's kind of the time, would that be a good time? And then there's people who don't have that at all until late at night. So maybe to take then at dinner.
Yes.
Because that's when they're like, the sugar monster comes out and is like,
Yeah, because some people are just like morning and some people, you're right. Like some people are afternoon, like that afternoon, especially before lunch and dinner, they were like going to that coffee shop, right? The typical coffee shop. And that donut was looking at them and they said, oh, I have to.
It's looking at them.
They look at me that way too.
That's what you said. Okay.
It's not if the hills have eyes, it's if the donuts have eyes. Okay. So it's like a new horror movie here. Okay. I love this. I think we're all learning something about a product that we have had. I mean, gosh, Dee, like it's been 20 plus years that we've had advanced level 90. And I think it's been this little secret weapon.
It really is a secret weapon. It's an incredible combination of that gymnema, alpha lipoic acid, the chromium, the mortimacia. There's in really this relationship that your gut has with nutrient absorption and energy partitioning, a relationship that both glucose and insulin have to really communicate and date better, right? So that they are more compatible with each other. And from a cellular level, very beneficial. Now, different magnesiums do different things, just like different amino acids found in plant proteins, or red meat have a different animal profile or a amino acid profile, or fish has a different amino acid profile. You guys, antioxidants and vitamins and minerals are the exact same way. So in this case, magnesium glycinate is really gentle on the stomach, but it also tends to be very beneficial in that stress response. And so when we think about that gut permeability, that healthy gut relationship with both hormones and food, you're going to be thinking of magnesium glycinate. When we think about mood and energy, you're going to think about magnesium glycinate. And so that's one of the reasons why I would pull it out as a really healthy blood sugar mineral, because it does play a role in insulin and glucose relationship, but it also plays a role in that sleep and that stress. That is one of some of the reasons why people don't sleep well. And it's a really good form in its glycinate form. And you can't talk about healthy weight and healthy energy if you don't talk about fiber. We talked about getting it through food, but resistant starches, like the one that we have in the NutriClean fiber powder, it goes by a clinically branded name called Fibersol 2. And Fibersol 2 is a resistant starch, which means that it has gone through a process to help it be a combination of that insoluble and soluble starch. So you get the gelatinous benefits, but you also get a lot of energy out of this. It is a very slow digestible starch. And in fact, just so you guys know, here's the magic, when they transport through the large intestine, these resistant starches allow the large intestine to be a factory for energy. And that energy is what your gut bugs use to help you lose weight. It's the energy source that your muscles are using. Even your vascular system, we think about healthy levels of hormones, is using for energy. So you want a resistant starch in your life, both through diet, but for those that are not getting the 35-gram minimum of fiber that they need a day, want to think about supplementing with fiber. They just shouldn't be doing an insoluble fiber, Melanie, Sosan, everyone. They need to be doing a resistant starch.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, we have solutions, right? We always have solutions in our, our trainings and our tips and in what we do. And I'm just so glad that both of you ladies were able to help us out with this particular topic. And like I said, I feel like it is really, truly life-changing because to, help the stress response and help them sleep, but they maybe wanted to integrate a little bit of prime sleep into their routine, maybe not every night, maybe every, you had said, how important melatonin is to an aging brain. Can those two be taken together?
Yes. So, interestingly enough, the production of melatonin comes with things like magnesium, B vitamins, botanicals that also create other neurotransmitters in the brain. And that's exactly the way Axe is built. Axe is built with things that produce GABA, which is an inhibitory, it's an inhibitory rather, neurotransmitter that's going to help us achieve sleep. It's going, but it's also going to create kind of that pool of healthy neurotransmitters. So melatonin has a little bit of a backup plan.
Okay. So it would be okay for someone to take 2X before a night with
Yes.
1 or 2 prime sleep.
They would take the one prime sleep, which is 10 milligrams of melatonin. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. So, can we take advanced level 90 and core together?
Totally. They can totally can do that together.
Yeah, that's what I thought for sure. I just saw a couple questions come in that I thought would be good for us to address. Somebody is obviously aware of our product Turn Down, which is also very good for sleep, and asking what the difference is with Prime. Well, it's 2 different mechanisms of, creating, a similar result, I guess. And for me, going the hormonal way with melatonin is really what Prime is achieving and doing. But whereas with Turn Down, you're looking at calcium, magnesium, and tryptophan. And so you're causing that calming of the muscles and calming of the body through those vitamins and minerals. Do you have anything to expand on that?
So tryptophan.
So there you go. There you have it. So depending on what kind of scenario you have, we have a product that will address that. So I love that. So fantastic. This has been great. So I think we're good to go with everyone. I just want to say thank you to all the participants who logged on with us tonight.
Yeah.
We had a very active chat. We just really appreciate everybody coming to learn and invest in themselves and learn from our panel of experts. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, Sosan, for joining us tonight. Yes, this was recorded. It will live on Facebook where we went live, and it will also be up on YouTube in the next couple weeks. Thanks, everyone. Have a fantastic night.
Thank you.
Thank you.